Small Soldiers is basically a film that is pretty much every 10-year-old's fantasy. um, you know, in a nutshell kind of thing. It's basically Toy Story, um, but violent. Violent enough, though, not to the point where it's, inappropriate or anything, but like it's literally like something that a 10 to 12-year-old would be all over, basically. Action figures fighting each other, and one side is good, one side is evil. But with this film, it's kind of funny because ever since I watched it, I always rooted for Chip Major, who is the evil guy, because he was cool and badass, even though it's actually the monster that's the good guys kind of thing. And they're Gorgonites, I believe they're called. And they're misunderstood, and a lot of other things play along with it. But I definitely took some notes on the actors and actresses in the film, which a lot of them appear. But for everybody who's seen the film, basically it's about these new line of action figures that are being developed, and they're being they're just like they're just about to be released or before being released. Somehow a shipment of them ends up in a like small budget kind of local toy store in some small town, and they have this batch of action figures, of both, this assembly line of action figures, but it kind of leaked out, so they haven't really been tested. And what happens is some nut job decided to put, I think, military enhanced microchips in the toy's brain, because the villain in this film is played by Dennis Leary, and he wanted to create a line of action figures that are very, cool and like actually do shit that they do in the commercials, as he says. So he comes up with the bright idea of putting, military style microchips, intelligence chips into these small soldiers, and they go from this local toy store to this little kid's house, and then they start to create havoc when they start to fight each other, basically. Um, it's one of my favorite films of the '90s because, like I said, it came out 4 years after Toy Story, and it kind of it enhances that risky level of where Toy Story is like a complete child's film, to Small Soldiers. This is like it pushes the I shouldn't say pushes, but it escalates to a certain level that is appealing to kids still, even though this is rated PG-13 in the States. I'm guessing it's the same rating in Canada. Maybe it's not 14A, but PG-13 in the States. And it's so much fun. Like, the film is a blast. Like, there's no boring moments. It's so perfectly done. Like I said, the villain, even though he's the villain, he's still like the badass dude, and I can't say you root for him, but like it's one of those things where how do I put it? The Gorgonites are the ones you want to root for, but these like military badass action figures are kind of, they're pretty much like the anti-heroes, you could say, and it works somehow. In another film it wouldn't work really, but it does in this one. As for people who show up in this, Kirsten Dunst has an earlier in her career. The main character, Alan, is played by oh boy, what's his name? Gregory Smith, who, it took me a little bit, I looked at him and I'm like, this is Edward Furlong, because he really looked a bit like Edward Furlong, and I was like, is that Eddie Furlong from Terminator? It wasn't, it was Gregory Smith. I don't know, like I haven't looked into him, and I don't know what other roles he's done since, but He's in this. Kirsten Dunst is a big name, obviously. Um, David Cross makes an appearance, who's he's somebody who kind of plays the same character in every role. He's like the nerdy, kind of scientist, geeky kind of guy, and that's exactly who he plays in this. He works for the company that's producing these toys alongside Dennis Leary, and he's like the skeptical one. He's the one who's basically telling Dennis Leary's character, um, Gil, to like slow it down and not do anything obnoxious, but Gil, played by Dennis Leary, just does whatever the fuck he wants, basically. And Tommy Lee Jones does the voice for Chip, so you can tell how well that would be as a pairing, because Tommy Lee Jones voicing this action figure works perfectly. And then there's Phil Hartman, who I've always known from Jingle All the Way, who plays the annoying neighbor named Ted in Jingle All the Way. And this is one of his last films, actually, before he was tragically passed away, you could say. Which I literally just found out because I had no idea. I looked into him because I recognized him immediately from his face and voice. It's like, oh, that's Ted from Jingle All the Way. And then I looked into his Wikipedia, and he was born in Brantford, Ontario, which is a 20-minute drive from where I live. And tragic circumstances, but that's obviously not what this review is about. This review is about Small Soldiers. My TV just blanked, so now you got the Blu-ray symbol back there. I can't say enough good things about this film. The Barbie scene is absolutely hands down my favorite scene in this film, when they take all of Kirsten Dunst's characters, Christy, all of her Barbies, and turn them into like robotic Terminator, like, man, it's just so hilarious. It's absolutely gut-wrenching hilarious. That's my favorite scene. And then they come alive. And my other favorite scene is when the enemies, the vicious Small Soldiers, they all build they go into a garage and they build all these like mechanical tiny vehicles, and it's so good. It's so good. There's so many moments in this film that are hilarious and fun, and I wouldn't call it a violent film. I would there's nothing inappropriate in it. It's just so much fun, and I can't say good enough about Small Soldiers, to the point where I got rid of my DVD and went to buy the Blu-ray, and it just came in, and I rewatched it in quite a while, to be honest, because it's been quite a few years since I revisited it, and it's just so good. It's so good. If you haven't seen Small Soldiers, definitely check it out. I'd say show it to your kids, because they're gonna have a blast watching action figures fight each other, and like I said, it's a blast. It's an absolute blast, and there's some like heartwarming like messages to it too, kind of talking about violence and misunderstanding other groups, kind of thing, in really subtle ways. They do a really cool job about it, and a lot of people harp on this film, but I honestly think it's one of my favorites from my childhood, and it's like I said, it's just fun. So it's a high recommendation for me. But that's Small Soldiers. It's pretty much all I got on it. Joe Dante directed it. He directed The Howling, he directed Gremlins, and he also directed a film that I very much like, Burying the X, I think it is. Zombie movie, like a kind of a spoof / twist on the zombie genre. But Joe Dante is a name that I definitely when I see his name on a production or a title that he's directing, I definitely I'll give him, like, he's one of my favorites. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, that's an A+ for me. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. Lots on the channel and lots more to come. So until then, take care, cheers, and have a good one.